I mean, do you think young people care about Atari?
I mean, that's a fair question. It does kind of have that Nirvana t-shirt energy to it a little bit, where you'll see Gen Zs wearing an Atari shirt and you're like, oh, what's your favorite game? And they're like, they make games? You know? So,
You came into the role in 2021. What would you like people to think of when they think of Atari?
I think the opportunity for Atari to be multi-generational really hit me as we start to introduce these new products, as we put out the 2600 plus, and parents were like showing their kids what they had played, and you know, I've been doing that with my daughter, and yeah, over time I think it was always there, but it's just really cemented itself how timeless the brand is.
I'm sort of interested in the idea of, you've teamed up with My Arcade for this Gamestation
Yep.
Go. What made you want to get into the handheld market? Because it's a very busy market right now.
Most games have kind of settled into, okay, there's twin analog sticks and a certain amount of buttons. But back in the day, these games had a crazy amount of different inputs and features and controllers. So to really play like in a television game or an Atari 5200 game, I mean, it's entirely, it's number prompts, it's number buttons versus a paddle for Pong or Breakout versus a trackball for Missile Command. So the opportunity to make a device that had all those different inputs that allowed players to play in these games in a much more authentic, close to the original experience, I think that was the part that really sold us on it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a bit about those different controls, because I believe there's like sort of 6 different controls, which is quite unusual for a console. Was there a feeling like, that has to be part of the experience of it, that makes it kind of more of an Atari thing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that was there immediately, but as we kind of went through it, because so much of Atari's roots are in the arcade, these games, even when they came to the 2600, where it was just joystick, single red button, they had these arcade roots. And in the arcade, you had all these different input mechanisms. So you had the trackball and the paddles, and of course the like twin sticks and these things that would eventually become like pretty standard. So the opportunity to take these arcade roots and then bring them over and present that in a unique way, that was, I don't know if it was immediate, but it pretty quickly became evident that was one of the things that we felt we had to do for the handheld.
And I suppose that does make it stand out a little bit from, for example, your Switch 2s, your kind of Steam Deck and thing. It makes it its own.
Which is an entirely different. I mean, the Switch 2 is amazing, and an entirely different product and value.
Very different, yeah. Are you trying to appeal to a kind of a different market, maybe, or I mean, do you think young people care about Atari?
I mean, that's a fair question. It does kind of have that Nirvana t-shirt energy to it a little bit, where you'll see Gen Zs wearing an Atari shirt and you're like, oh, what's your favorite game? And they're like, they make games, or they'll be like, yeah, you mentioned Space Invaders or Pac-Man. You're like, oh, shoot, okay, those aren't Atari games.
Yeah.
But I think there is a place for Atari in the video game space. We really try to carve out and be the best in the world at retro, but it also is a brand that's bigger than that. In pop culture, it has a recognizability to it. Even to this day, one of the most recognizable logos in the world. I think there's an affinity for it, even if young people don't necessarily care about it. And I think in that affinity is the opportunity to build that into care and love and community.
In terms of the E word, emulation, how does Atari deal with that? Is emulation bad for business?
I'm assuming you mean illegal emulation, like pirating. Yeah. I think emulation, it's interesting because it comes up a lot. And what we always say when we do these packages, we have to make it better than free. It's like Spotify. We can still illegally download music, but we don't, because Spotify's better than free. And that's kind of how we view retro. You have to make it better than free. You have to also allow people to feel like they're a part of something larger than themselves, that they are a part of this community, that this fandom matters, that you're hearing them, that you're responsive to what they like and want, so that if they're supporting you and there's a game that they really care about, that we'll listen to that and potentially do a new version of it. I'm in a very literal way. We hear all of that feedback when people tell us, hey, I would love to see a new recharge version of XYZ classic Atari game. We factor all those things in. We use that in our decision making on which games to pursue or to do new titles of. And so yeah, it's also a way for us to engage with the community and for them to provide feedback, and we really listen closely to all of that.
The final thing I really wanted to ask you, and it ties in a little bit to what I was saying at the beginning about this association with Atari, with sort of with the physical, arcade machines, and now, well, not just now, but previously you've had other, consoles you've looked at. Now you've got also this handheld console as well. We've also seen just really recently Valve with their Steam machine. They're bringing that back, and they're looking at sort of going into the console business. Do you think in that case that there is still a real interest in the physical for gamers? It's not all just digital.
I think there is a little bit of a return to physicality, much like vinyl, much like even, who knows, maybe CDs will make a comeback someday. That seems kind of crazy, but we'll use vinyl as an example. Does that mean people who listen to vinyl also don't listen to Spotify? No, they're definitely using both, but there is something great about the brushed switches and moving them up and feeling it click in and putting in the cartridge, the deliberate nature of that. So I think there's space for both. I think physical is still figuring out what it's going to be, because that traditional physical market is still shrinking. But then this sort of secondary physical market is very nascent and growing. And then there's, all the different ways that people want to interact with games, which is rapidly expanding. So long-winded way to say, yes, I don't think physical is going anywhere. I think it's changing, and we'd love to be a part of that change and just meet it wherever it goes.